This is Chapter 8, Reaching Customers and Driving Sales. And in this chapter, we're going to look at how to penetrate the market by differentiating yourself from the competition through price, product, place, and promotion to the target market, which is the 4 P's of marketing. And we're also going to look at pricing strategies, how customer service plays a role in reaching your customers. Also, we're going to look at how branding strategies affect your perception to customers.
First, we're going to look at the role of the marketing strategy. And a successful marketing strategy is a key to your business's success. And you must have a marketing plan that reaches your target customer and motivates them to buy. And the main purposes of a marketing strategy serves is to help entrepreneurs determine how potential customers will become aware of their products or services. So what's the best way to reach your customer? Are you going to go through television ads, newspaper ads, websites? Also, another purpose of your marketing strategy is to define the message the entrepreneur wants to convey about the product, service, or the company. So what is your message that you want to get out there? Also, your strategy serves to identify the method used to deliver and reinforce that message and how sales will be achieved. So delivery method is also looking at where that's coming from. And then last, you want to address how the company will position itself against the competition.
Now we're going to look at naming your business, and your business name is part of your overall branding, and it will be used in brochures, company letterhead, websites, and other different things within your company. And your name can attract someone who is looking for a product to your website over another if your name somehow conveys what your product is. And the name of your business communicates a certain image, so when choosing a name, it's important to consider the name of your competitors, so you don't, or do you want to differentiate yourself by being different from them? Also, the message the name communicates. Do you want your name to communicate a boutique feel, a trendy feel, a discount feel, a resale feel? Also, how descriptive is the name? Does it help describe your product or your service? And you also want to consider your customer and what describes them, and your name could be something that describes what they want to be. You also want a name that is easy to remember and pronounce. Also, you need to think about the long-term growth of your company, and don't use too narrow or too descriptive a name that limits what products you can offer later down the line. So this would be, say that your name, you chose the name Accessories Touch because you only sell accessories. Well, what if you decide to add clothing to your line later? It kind of limits you because now people think you only carry accessories by looking at your name. Now we're going to look at the 4 P's of marketing, which are also called the marketing mix, and they're used to determine your marketing strategy. And the 4 P's of marketing are variables that you can control to some extent as long as external variables are stable. And the 4 P's of marketing are offering the right product in the right place at the right price and using the right promotion. There's also a 5th P of marketing that can be added, and this is the people who you will target as your potential customers or product users. And your marketing mix must reinforce the image of the company's product to the potential customer, and all 5 elements should complement one another. You also want to direct resources to the 5 P's with the highest potential to increase revenue and profits. And you want to make your decisions centered on your target market, which we've said that over and over. Make your decisions based off of your target market. And you want to increase your perceived value and have a positive response through your product or service being offered. So looking at the first P, product. The product is anything offered to a market for attention, acquisition, use, or consumption. And it can be defined as any item or service that satisfies the need of a customer. And you need a product that will satisfy a need and provide a benefit to satisfy your target customer. And the elements that combine to create the product are the functionality, style, quality, packaging, warranty, accessories, and services that come along with your product. And some questions you can ask to help to define your product as it relates to marketing are on page 166 of your textbook. Also, to stay competitive, you must be open to innovation and change in your product lines or your product delivery method. And Jay Holborn is an example in your book of a great product delivery method. They make and a change kind of in a product line. So they make dress shirts, which is a product that's been out there, but they started making custom dress shirts. And also they have a very different product delivery method. They have personal style advisors that come to businessmen at work, take their measurements, and offer suggestions and create ideal dress shirts for them. And this helps these men to see shopping as hassle-free by coming to them and helping them choose what to buy. And this is actually a company based out of Dallas. And they also have online retailing, so they can provide service 24/7. Another thing you need to look at when looking at your product is the life cycle of the product, which we've talked about before, and make sure you are getting in at the early stages of the life cycle when sales are strong and profit margins are high. And successful companies use their product to build a marketing strategy and to penetrate the market. Next is place. And place is making sure that the product is available when and where it is wanted. Place looks at what type of store you're going to have, and are you going to have an online store to reach a more broader customer base than having a brick and mortar store? Those are things to look at. Also, some questions to ask when determining the place for your products is on page 167. And also you need to look at where do your buyers look for products. Do they usually go to a store to look for your product? Do they usually go online, catalog? So for example, if your product was jeans, you know that most people usually go to a store to buy jeans because they like to try them on. So the best way for you to maybe get, if that's your core product, is to go through a brick and mortar store at first. Also, consumers are looking for products that are convenient to purchase when they are wanted and needed. So when selecting your channel of distribution, which is how you're going to move your product from the manufacturer to the consumer, and this is shown in the figure in this slide, and you need to take careful consideration to determine or select your channel of distribution to ensure good service at a reasonable price. And the primary channel of distribution that is used is the manufacturer to retailer to consumer. And that can either be from manufacturer to non-store retailer or a brick and mortar retailer to the ultimate consumer. And that's the best channel to go through because it's usually the least expensive channel to go through. When you add in a wholesaler or a salesperson, sales representative, it gets a little more expensive usually. The next page we're going to look at is price. And pricing has an impact on almost every aspect of the business. And pricing has a direct impact on your market share. So if you price low, then you're going to have to capture a larger market share. But if you want to be high-end and exclusive, then you'll price high and have less of a market share. Also, pricing impacts the company image. So if you have low prices, then you're seen to have lesser quality or low-end product. While if you have high prices, you're seen to be exclusive and high-end and more quality. Next is profitability. So where you price is going to affect your profitability. And you need to project how much would sell at a certain price, because this is going to affect your gross margins and your gross profits. So we'll talk about later pricing kind of in the middle of your price range to ensure profitability. You also need to look at whether you have a competitive advantage through price or not. And this will determine how you're going to use your price. So usually if you have price competitively, you're going to have to price low. Also, pricing has a direct impact on your sales volume, so it goes back to that whole market share sales volume. Higher prices mean lower sales volume, and lower prices mean higher sales volume. And last, pricing affects your sales revenue. So if your price increases, and your sales volume may decrease, and in return, you would decrease your total revenue. So you need to effectively price products to increase revenue and profit. And every product has a price range and a price ceiling. So the price ceiling is the highest price a business can ask for its product, and it is usually set by the customer. And then you also have the price floor, and this is the lowest price charged and is determined by your cost. So it's the lowest price you can offer and still make a profit, and it's based off of your cost. And the goal is to set your price between the floor and the ceiling to maximize profits and position the business competitively. You also need to keep the following rules in mind when evaluating your pricing strategies. So the first one looks at profit, and products should be priced to generate a profit by either cutting cost, increasing sales, or increasing prices. And the more competitive the market, the harder it is to make a profit, because they're going to be fighting over price and who has the lowest price. And the lowest price you can charge and still have a profit depends on your cost of goods sold, your fixed operating expenses, and your anticipated sales. So if you think of Walmart, they have a really, really low cost of goods sold because they buy in volume, so they can offer the lowest price. Next is position, and the amount that you can change your position depends upon the competition. If you have a niche market, then you're going to be able to charge higher prices because no one else can offer what you have. And next is value, and consumers seek value for their money, so customers must perceive that the price is the same as the value the product provides. So value is part of an image, and an exclusive image demands a higher price, while if you offer lower prices, you expect a low price is going to give you value. Now we're going to look, this is table 8.1, and it's on page 170 of your textbook. And it compares the factors that influence pricing and the factors influenced by pricing that you need to consider when pricing your items. So looking at the factors that influence pricing, we talked about cost of goods sold. So based off of what your cost of goods sold determines where you can price your product and still make a profit. Also, demand is going to affect how you will influence pricing. So if there's really high demand for your product, you can offer a higher price because people will pay it. If it's low demand, then you have to have a really low price. Competition. This was the whole niche thing. If you have a niche, so you really don't have any competition, then you can have a much higher price and people will pay it. If there's a ton of competition, then you're going to have to price really low. Same thing, market pricing is kind of like, what's the market priced at? Next is customer perception. So if you're perceived as low quality or low end, then you're going to have low prices. While if you're perceived as high end exclusive, you can charge a higher price. And also margin standards. So what is your margin standard? Because that's going to affect how you can price. Also, factors that are influenced by pricing are your sales volume. So remember we said if you are going to have lower prices, you'll have a higher sales volume. And if you have higher prices, you're going to have a lower sales volume. And then this can in turn affect your sales revenue, will be influenced by the price that you offer. And then also your price is affected by the market share. So if you have a large share of the market, then you're going to, that can influence, also pricing can influence your marketing share. So usually if you have a low price, you have a larger market share because you have to bring more people in and have higher sales volume. While usually if you have a higher price, you have a shorter market share or share of the market. Also, competitive advantage. If your competitive advantage is price, that means you're going to have a lower price. If your competitive advantage means that you have a unique or different product or a better service, then you can have a higher price. Also, company image. If your image is high-end, high quality, you can charge a higher price. If it's not, you can't. And last, profitability also affects your pricing. That's the bottom line, is that you always have to price where you're going to make a profit. So continuing to look at price, the pictures on this slide are of Vera Wang's line for Kohl's, and this label is called a diffusion label or secondary line that she has that increases her market share. So remember we said like a designer line is very high expensive, so it's a very market share, a very small amount of consumers who can buy it. So if a designer wants to increase their market share, they can create a cheaper line that they sell to mass retailers such as Kohl's to increase their market share. And with consumers becoming more price conscious, retailers have been forced to take a hard look at their pricing strategy. And retailers have begun to focus on the value of their products and advertising that promotes their value. So some common strategies among retailers when looking at price are, the first one is markup. And this is the amount added to the cost of the product to determine the selling price. It can be determined by the type of merchandise sold, the services the retailer provides. So if your merchandise is exclusive, you can have a higher markup. If you're adding in alterations and other services such as personal shopping, you can have a higher price. Also, how often the product sells. So if you're having to sell it all the time, then you usually have a lower price. And the amount of profit the entrepreneur wants to make is going to also affect your markup. And it is usually expressed as a percentage of the retail price. Next is competitive pricing, and this is a strategy where the retailer bases its price on the competitor's price. So you can either price above or below the market. So if you price below, then you need to have a high inventory turnover, like Walmart would have, where they buy in volume, so then they can have a lower price per unit and a lower retail price and have a high turnover. Next is premium pricing, and this is pricing products close to the price ceiling, and it is for products that are new to the market or that is targeted to an elite high-end market that wants high-quality, prestigious items that are exclusive, and they're usually consumers that don't care about price. Next is penetration pricing, and this is pricing a product low to introduce it to a market and then promoting it to get people to try the product. And you use this to build your sales quickly and establish a brand, and then you can increase your price. Next is value-based pricing, and this is aligning the price with the perceived value. And so price is not based on the market price or your competitors. And to do this, you must know how to measure customer value very well. And last is price skimming. And this is where you set a relatively higher price for the product initially and then lower the price over time. And this is exactly what Kohl's does. And they set a high price and then they just continually lower it over the course that they have it out on their floor. And so the goal of doing this is to get some sales at the higher price, and then increasingly get more and more sales when you start to lower your price. Next is promotion, and this involves the activities used to inform the potential consumer about the product. And promotions require capital, so some inexpensive ways to get your name out are personal selling, window displays, product labeling and packaging are forms of promotion. Store signage, press releases, or publicity are all used as a form of promotion to reach your market, especially during the startup phase. And also the internet is a less expensive way to reach a larger customer base to promote your product. Next is advertising, and advertising is paid non-personal communication delivered through mass media. And in addition to reaching and motivating targeted customers, the advertising message positions the company relative to the competition by emphasizing certain attributes or target how consumers feel about themselves with their image of the store. So an example of this would be Victoria's Secret sells the image of being sexy and attractive, is the image that they sell, so they're trying to reach this consumer that wants to be sexy and attractive. Advertising can be expensive, therefore it's important to identify avenues to reach your specific target market, and you need to consider how and where the target market receives their advertising message. So for example, if you're trying to reach a customer, which is usually a mom looking for kids clothing, they're not going to be reading magazines that are targeted to male high-end fashion consumers. So you need to think, what kind of magazines does this type of customer read? What TV shows do they watch? What radio stations do they listen to? That's the things you would want to be looking at, because print advertising includes newspapers, magazines, direct-to-mail, and internet. And other forms of advertising are your TV and radio. And if you look at Table 8.2 in your textbook, it outlines the various forms of media and the advantages and disadvantages of each. Next is publicity, which is free, a form of advertising which is free, and It's a form of advertising in which the media publishes stories about the business at no cost. And it's a great form of advertising for a startup company to introduce a new product or service. So, and the slide shows a company called Olive and Betty's Company, and they were featured in Entrepreneur Magazine, which would be a form of publicity where they were talking about how great this company is doing. And some publicity promotional strategies used to stay in front of your customer. One example is you can submit a press release to the media venues to try to get them to write a story about your company. And a press release is an editorial copy that can be used by the media to promote an event or newsworthy item. So an example, you could send in a story about how you're hosting a charity fashion show to raise money for a nonprofit organization, and then you can get media coverage for your event to promote it, and at the same time, it's also promoting your company, which in this can be done either through the newspaper or through television. You can also use your website to communicate with your customers and to tell them what is going on in your store and when new items arrive. And your website needs to build your brand and promote your business. And if you look on page 176 of your textbook, there are questions you should consider when developing your website. You can also use networking, which is the ability to connect with a broad range of contacts for the purpose of sharing useful information and resources. And networks can be used to generate sales and leads, accrue marketing knowledge, exchange ideas, and recruit employees. And social networks are also great, such as blogs and discussion forums. And they will be a critical marketing aspect for a company. Next is your advertising budget, and as a new business, you'll have to advertise so consumers will know that your business exists. However, advertising costs a lot, so you need to take careful consideration to determine how much your advertising budget will be, where ads will be placed, and how effective those ads will be at getting the word out about your business and products. And there are various methods for determining your advertising budgets, but the two primary ones that are used in fashion retail business are the percentage of sales method and the objective and task method. And the percentage of sales method is where costs are budgeted as a percentage of sales, and the exact percentage used can be affected by competitive factors in the marketing strategy. And this method avoids the problems that can result from using profits to base your advertising off of, because sales fluctuate less than profits. Also, sales can be based on past sales, estimated figures, or both. And to determine the ratio to use of sales to advertising, you can find those figures through the Census Bureau, the Internal Revenue Service reports, and the Dun and Bradstreet reports. And if your products are seasonal, you will have more advertising during that season than other, which makes this a good method for you to use, because you're going to have higher sales during that season that you target the most. And the other method used is the objective and task method, and this links advertising expenditures to specific objectives. And the method is difficult to use but is the most accurate, and you can determine your target market, and then you determine how to reach them and which media channels will work best to reach them. Then you need to determine how much it will cost to run each media channel needed to generate sales. And then the media alternatives are compared in terms of cost and how effective they reach your target customer. And the costs are totaled and calculated into your projected budget. And another important thing that you need to think about with your marketing to your consumer is looking at customer service. And sales are not created through just promotions alone. Customer service also affects your sales, and good customer service makes a difference in customer retention, and good retailers do not lose touch with their customers, which is their most valuable asset. And one way a company can differentiate themselves from the competition is providing exceptional customer service by building lasting relationships with their customers. And Nordstrom's is a company that's known for exceptional customer service. One thing they do is they provide prepaid postage mailing envelopes for returns. They also have live chat rooms on their website where personal shoppers to help them 24/7. And also their sales associates are known to do whatever they can to make a customer satisfied by providing service beyond the customer's expectations. And today's culture is less personal, so by including personal attention, by calling customers by name and providing a friendly smile can really go a long way. And a company can improve customer satisfaction by doing the following things. One thing they can do is give a good first impression. As humans, we decide within minutes of meeting someone whether we want to continue our relationship with them or not. So if the first customer interaction is a poor one, then the customer will never forget that, and they'll relate that back to the company. Also, you need to listen to the customer, and this can be done through market research, such as focus groups, surveys, comment cards, or one-on-one conversations to find out what customers want and to use that to build customer satisfaction. That's one thing at JCPenney that they did with our private label brands is we did do focus groups with the target customer and learn what they liked and disliked about our product to make changes to our product to meet their needs. Also, you need to hire a good sales force. You need friendly and courteous and customer-oriented people working for you, especially if you're in a highly competitive market to help differentiate yourself on customer service. You also need to make service a core value. So this is the responsibility of management to ensure that customer service is a core value of the company and communicated to employees. You also need to empower your employees to offer great customer service. And this would be allowing them to be able to take care of their customer instead of having to ask for management what they can and can't do or what they can return or can't return. And so companies like Lands' End will return anything. Used, how old it is, they don't care. They'll return it. You also need to provide a customer training program for your employees. And so you need to allocate time and money to train them on how to provide great customer service. And you also want to work on attracting, training, and retaining a sales force that will provide quality customer service. And each customer has monetary value. If you look at box 8.2 of your textbook, you can see how to compute the lifetime value of a customer to see how important they are to your business. And lastly, we're going to look at branding, which is the sum of all the associations, feelings, beliefs, attitudes, and perceptions customers have with the company. And a brand is a name or logo, trademarks, term, design, symbol, service, or any other feature that identifies one retailer from another. And once a brand has been established, it's really difficult to change the way the customer views the business. So remember how we said that once you meet someone, you have that image and that stays with you. Also, it's important to think out your brand and make sure it is something you want to live with for a very long time and not change. And you convey the brand message through your marketing, your logo, your business cards, your brochures, flyers, your website, and so on. And looking at the slide, Walmart has been trying to change their logo to refresh their brand. So the top picture is their old logo and the bottom picture is their new logo to kind of refreshen their brand. And the following are some tips on creating a brand. You want to develop a vision for your brand. So the more solid the brand vision, the more likely the customer will understand and relate to your vision. Also, you want to position your brand in relation to the competition. So you want you to differentiate yourself from the competition through your brand. You also want to create a personality with your brand because each brand has a distinct personality, and the more emotion a brand can evoke, the more memorable it will be in the minds of your consumer. So for example, Chanel conveys sophistication, luxury, glamour, and beauty with their brand. You also need to define the values that the brand represents because it is a set of defined values, and you need to let the customer know those because you can create a long-term customer that way. So say for example Tom's shoes, they have the value of giving back to others, and so that's something that they communicate to their consumers, and they can create long-term consumers that way. Also, some companies will communicate their Christian values, and they create long-term customers that way. And this concludes chapter 8.